Hello, everyone. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. Number one, it's totally free. They also have creation tools that allow you to edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. How convenient is that? Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many, many more. So, what are you waiting for? You can also make money with no minimum listenership. It's time to get started. Well, welcome to the Kingya podcast. As you may have guessed, I am your host, Kingya, a father, activist, and professional speaker. On this podcast, we discuss relationships, criminal justice, news and politics, Black history, culture, and domestic violence awareness. If this is your first time being here, I want to say thank you and encourage you to keep listening. Each week you can expect to hear thought-provoking interviews as well as personal and relationship tips that will help enhance your life. You will have access to resourceful downloads that you can implement daily to become more productive. Thank you for spending some time with me today. The purpose of this podcast is because everyday people inspire me through their stories of trial and error in life. Now let's jump into your favorite podcast. What better way to share our stories? Everyone, I want to thank you. Welcome to the show. My name is Kingya. I'm the host of the show tonight, Kingya Speaks radio show. Joining us tonight is we have two very special guests joining us tonight. One of them, Honorable Laninya Cason from the City of Champions. We'll be bringing her on in just a few moments, and we'll ask her a few questions. We want to give her an opportunity to explain to us why she chose this lifestyle as a judge, right? And then we're going to jump into some of the other topics. Also joining us is our Honorable Judge Joe Brown will also be joining us as well. You guys are in for a wonderful show tonight. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to our show and continue to spread the word about what we are doing. Share with your friends and families because you do not want to miss this show tonight. You have an opportunity to speak to two honorable judges, Judge Laninya Cason from the City of Champions and the city of what Dr. Eugene Redmond likes to call the city of East St. Love, Illinois. Also, I see that Chester Deans has also made an appearance. I want to say thank you, Brother Chester Deans. I appreciate you, the love and support that you have for what we are doing and also for what you are doing with Futura as well, and for all of your accomplishments and achievements too. Just want to acknowledge you, brother. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday, right? Thank God it is Friday. The Honorable Laninya Cason. We appreciate you joining us tonight. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here tonight. And so for that, I am certainly grateful for that opportunity. Thank you. Okay. All right. Why has there been such an attack on the Black family structure? We are going to get into this tonight. We're going to talk about this. We're also going to ask a few questions to the honorable judges. There will be an opportunity for the listeners to also ask questions of the honorable judges. The Honorable Judge Laninya Cason is also a lawyer, so I want to give you guys just a little bit of information about the Honorable Laninya Cason. She's an Associate Circuit Judge for the 20th Judicial Circuit in St. Clair County in the state of Illinois. The Honorable Laninya Cason is also an attorney and counselor. Recently established the Cason Law Practice, LLC, in Swansea, Illinois. And that address is 2 Park Place, Swansea, Illinois, 62226. We will give you guys that information again later on in the show. Also joining us is the Honorable Judge Joe Brown. I call him Judge Joe. He is also an American lawyer and television personality. He is a former Shelby County, Tennessee criminal court judge and a former arbitrator of the arbitration-based reality court show, as you know, Judge Joe Brown. So aside from those phenomenal people that we will be having as our most honored special guests, both of the honorable judges, and ask them questions regarding family. We're talking about family issues. We're talking about child custody. We're talking about visitation, alienation. We're talking about this stimulus check. We're going to be talking about that too. Will parents have an opportunity to receive stimulus checks from the government, or will they be intercepted because of child support payments? So we will be talking about that as well. We are definitely going to get into it, and it is going to be awesome. So with no further ado, we are going to bring on the Honorable Laninya Cason. Good evening, Judge.
Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
It's always a pleasure to be in your presence. I appreciate you so much for all the work that you do in the beautiful city of East St. Louis, Illinois, and throughout the world.
Thank you.
You got a lot going on. So you are a judge, and you have recently established your own law firm.
Yes. I was a judge in the 20th Judicial Circuit in the state of Illinois for 12 and a half years. And in 2015, I left the bench and I worked for the Department of Children and the Department of Children and Family Services in the state of Illinois for about 3.5 years. And then just recently, I just established my own law practice, the Cason Law Practice. So I would describe myself as more of a centrist. I like to say socially liberal and fiscally conservative. We as minorities, we know how to make $1 out of 15 cents. So you know how to be fiscally conservative, but I am socially liberal.
Judge, before we get started, let's talk a little bit about yourself and your journey, your personal journey. What prompted you to take on the path of criminal justice and criminal justice reform?
Well, I grew up in East St. Louis, Illinois, and so naturally I saw a lot of poverty and a lot of inequality. So that's a foundation. And then after college, passion for communicating effectively and siding for the right side of justice. And the legal profession allows you to appreciate the art of working things out and collecting evidence and coming up with unarguable defenses. And so it's one of the greatest advantages of the law, and the diversity of the profession attracted me to it. And, you know, whether it's a car accident or an eviction or murder cases, defending murderers. I've never defended a murderer, but I've as a judge, that those types of things come past your bench. So it's one of the greatest professions, I think, in the world, and it's an honor to be practicing, and it's an honor to have served the state of Illinois in a judicial capacity.
How long did you actually serve on the bench?
For 12 and a half years, from 2003. I took the bench when I was 31. From 2003 to 2015, so about 12 and a half years. And before that, I was a civil defense attorney, a large Chicago-based law firm. They had an office in Belleville, so I was a partner there. And I took the bench in 2003. I graduated from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville in 96, and I worked for that firm for about 6.5 years, and I took the bench.
You have quite the experience, so we certainly appreciate you sharing that with our listeners. That's very important for them. I am huge on criminal justice reform, so having you as a special guest on the show is very important. St. Louis, Missouri area, there is few organizations, Father Support being one of them, Futura being the other. Mr. Chester Deans is over that program. And for a long time, he was also over the Father Support Program as well. I also participated in the Father Support Program several years ago. Understanding what that mission is about, giving men an opportunity against the bias that is so often seen in the judicial system when it comes to fighting for child custody, fighting against child support, seeking justice in what seems to be an unjust environment when it comes to men, when it comes to black men in that St. Louis, East St. Louis area. In my experience, there has certainly been a lot of unjust to the black man, civil division as well when we are dealing with family courts. Why is that? And have you experienced that?
Absolutely. East St. Louis, about, 2015, in about spring of 2015, I actually formed a committee, and we had a forum on the mass incarceration of African-American males in this country. I was inspired to do that. I saw a speech by a phenomenal professor in New York. She gave a speech at a judicial conference, and she was talking about the disparities in America with regard to the mass incarceration problem and how the breakdown of the family unit kind of was the impetus of this problem. And the statistics, I decided to just scale it down and see how mass incarceration affected the residents in St. Clair County, and it was pretty astonishing. About 72% of the men that were booked into the St. Clair County jail were African American men. About 70% of the women that were booked were African American women. And poverty, the lack of resources is a driving force. The deindustrialization of the black community kind of drove out jobs, child support. Without jobs, you're still making babies, then you have child support. So it's a cyclical type of situation that I think that black people, African American people, we need to really get a hold of. And, we need to come up with some sort of legitimized plan, a plan of action for the country to actually realize what is going on in our community. You look at TV, you look at the local news, and every day there's a killing or a shooting. In my neighborhood, there was just a couple of shootings. Violence is rampant. In Chicago, violence is rampant. It's primarily focused on African American men. And we have not been adequate. So many things, there is a lot of ingredients that goes into this problem. But it all stems from slavery and the Jim Crow. We are still recovering from slavery.
We are still trying to recover from that whooping.
Absolutely. And it is affecting our black men on a plethora of levels. And you can, from child support to murder. So it's really, legislation needs to be passed. There really does need to be someone at the helm. And the only person right now at the helm, I think, of black support is Barack Obama. And I really would wish that he, or, he's probably the most popular black man in America that can be the impetus for mass change.
Well, welcome to the Kingya podcast. As you may have guessed, I am your host, Kingya, a father, activist, and professional speaker. On this podcast, we discuss relationships, criminal justice, news and politics, black history, culture, and domestic violence awareness. If this is your first time being here, I want to say thank you and encourage you to keep listening. Each week you can expect to hear thought-provoking interviews as well as personal and relationship tips that will help enhance your life. You will have access to resourceful downloads that you can implement daily to become more productive. Thank you for spending some time with me today. The purpose of this podcast is because everyday people inspire me through their stories of trial and error in life. Now let's jump into your favorite podcast. What better way to share